Alright, welcome back to another painting tutorial. In this one we're going to look at the High Elf loremaster Teclis. I believe that's how you pronounce it. If it's not, somebody will let me know. Alright, so this is actually a pretty fast model to paint up. Didn't do a super fancy paint job, just did my standard blue and grayish white and non-metallic gold, and that's about it. So a couple of red gems and flesh, and other than that I don't think there's much other colors. So here's the basic colors I was using for my High Elves. So these are the grays that I use for the cloaks, and I don't really use a white highlight except for the very edges, which isn't shown here. These are the blues I use for the cloak with a base coat of Mordium blue, and then for the non-metallic I use Teclis flesh, and then Devlin mud. Actually, sorry, it's I believe it's Pistil brown. Anyways, a brown base coat, Devlin mud, and then highlighting it up with those Palomino gold and buckskin pale. So we started out with a gray spray base coat, so it's like a gray primer. That's all there is to that, and both sides. And I did the base ahead of time just to save myself a little effort later. Okay, so this is Mordium blue, just painting that on any areas that are going to be blue, and obviously I don't have to be too careful because I'm going to be painting everything else over top. So there's all the details. Okay, now what I'm doing is painting the first gray on there, so that's you can kind of see it's kind of like a Codex gray for GW. I'm using the Reaper one though, so just trying to get that, and then anywhere it interfaces with the blue, making sure that it doesn't overlap, but anything else I can be a little bit sloppier with. Okay, now I've got, that's actually Calthan brown now that I see it. So that's Calthan brown, base coat on anything that's going to be gold. So pretty much all his armor, most of his staff, and little bits here and there. And at this point, I also have Teclis flesh on his hands. And now I'm doing some washes. So as you can see, there's only really 4 basic colors done so far, and that kind of covers the whole model. I've got Devlin mud wash on all of this, and I think that's all that step is. And I've done scorched brown on the base there. Okay, so now I'm starting to work up the gray highlights here, and you can tell that even though it's gray, it looks kind of white. That's just the way the photo exposes, and works out nice. Looks a lot whiter than it actually is. It looks proper in person, but I think some people assume that white has to be white, when in reality it's just mostly gray. Okay, so I'm still working up those grays, and I think I've done the first layer of blue highlight on here now. And yeah, it's starting to look decent. And the gray, I think that might be all done. Okay, so now you can see the blue highlight coming up there, so I'm just trying to blend in near the lowest parts with the base color and working the lighter bits toward the edges. And you see the same thing here, trying to leave the deepest shadows, the darker colors, and working up my working up to like a solid color with that highlight, the edges. And now what I'm doing is just taking the next highlight and trying to blend it just on the edges and around all the sharp bits. And you can see the same thing here, so that's kind of what we're doing. Alright, and not sure what more is done here. I think I've done the sword there. And I think now, okay, so now I'm starting to do some base coats on the gold bits here. So this is, I think it's Reaper leather brown, or oil, let me see here. Sorry, oiled leather it's called, and it's kind of like a medium brown, very similar to Calthan brown, and that serves sort of as the middle tone after the Devlin mud. Okay, so now here we go with Palomino gold. So I'm highlighting up all of the areas that I think I want the gradient to go into. So I've got sort of a gradient going this direction up here, and working that on all kind of the lower edges of things. That's kind of how I've done this non-metallic look. And then what I'll do is with the next one, so this is Palomino gold, and it's on the lowest edge of things, and I'm going to highlight the top edge, just a very thin highlight. You can see it right up there, up on the top edge of those books. So what I'm looking for is a sharp edge at the top of things and then a gradient at the bottom. And that's a technique that I think works for me. And it's a pretty fast painting. This whole guy was done over 2 evenings, a couple hours each night. So overall fairly fast and quite easy. Now that I've done a ton of High Elves. So did some of the gemstones here, so that's just a base coat of scab red, highlighted with blood red, and then, which one is it, blazing orange, and then a little white highlight at the top. And a little bit of the elf skin on his skin there, just to highlight up from the washes. And then did a little bit of work on the base. It's just the muddy brown triad from Reaper with a tiny bit of static grass just for a little bit of transition color there. So I didn't do any special detail on his cloak or anything. For the points, this guy's kind of plain. I really don't like that sword. It's a bit clunky looking, but this guy apparently is absolutely killer in the game, and I'm going to have to try him out sometime when I'm playing a competitive game. So that was the High Elf Teclis loremaster tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. Check out my blog. It's like watching paint dry.blogspot.com. Comment, like, and share this if you can. That would help out a lot. See you next time.